Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to be talking about congressional inquiries and kind of what they involved, when to use them, the kind of the time frame, the procedure of everything that's supposed to happen. Before we dive too much into the video, I want to say please make sure you watch the video in its entirety so that you don't miss a detail that pertains directly to you, and then you kind of go into this issue thinking one thing and it ends up being another. So I can't stress that enough. Please watch the whole video. Okay, so congressional inquiries. If you're watching this video, a congressional inquiry realistically can be anything to do with any government agency, but in this video specifically, we're talking about Social Security. So if you're new to this channel, check it out and consider subscribing. But this channel is primarily geared towards Social Security. So if you're having an issue with, let's say, the IRS or maybe immigration, something like that, that is something separate than what we'll be talking about and addressing in this video. All right, so here we are at the Social Security's website. This page actually appears to be geared towards an employee at the congressperson's office, right? So what you can kind of grasp from this page is that each Congress representative has some sort of guide that they're supposed to follow, some sort of procedure depending on the issue and what the problem is. There'll be a guide that they're expected to follow. Okay, so just know that kind of going into it. And this is realistically, this particular page is for them to request that guide. I'm sure that they have other means for it, but realistically, that's what this is for. All right. So we hit the first topic, right? When are you going to use a congressional inquiry? The fundamental basis for a congressional inquiry, I would say the overwhelming majority of the time, has to do with the time frame of what's going on. So time, basically. So there's some sort of action pending that should have taken X amount of days or X amount of months, and it is way past that point, right? So knowing when to engage a congressional inquiry so that you don't experience this extended period of time without any sort of decision or response is kind of what you want to avoid, or why you want to utilize a congressional inquiry. All right. So whether you filed a disability application, maybe you filed an internet application, and nothing's been done, or you have an overpayment issue, I would say those are the three primary functions or primary reasons why I have seen congressional inquiries be done. All right, so that could be anything disability related. That could be an SSDI application for under your own record. Maybe you're filing as a disabled adult child under a parent's record, or maybe you're filing as a disabled widow under a deceased spouse's record. The normal time frame pre-pandemic, we'll say, so prior to 2020, was about between 4 and 6 months to get an initial determination. So you filed your application with the Social Security Administration. They forward that application over to the state disability determination service, and usually it's at the disability determination service for that extended period of time, because they have to order your records and wait for them to get back, and then the examiner has to go through all those records and then possibly schedule an appointment. And sometimes the ball can get dropped as far as the time frame goes. So I would say at this point, the average wait time from what I've seen from other people is between 15 and 18 months. So roughly a year and a half for determination, versus pre-pandemic levels about 4 to 6 months. So I would say, to be fair, if you hit the 12-month mark and you haven't gotten a decision yet, at that point, it would be good to contact or start the process of a congressional inquiry for disability purposes. If you're somebody who has maybe filed an online application, I would say the most time-sensitive applications that you could file online probably has to do with Medicare, because that's insurance, and particularly when you know that you're going to enroll in some sort of third-party plan, like an Advantage plan, a GAP plan, a D plan, because those are time-sensitive matters based off of enrollment dates. I'm not too experienced with those third-party enrollments, and it kind of comes down to the carrier, and I'm sure a bunch of other federal rules. I've never done that, so but I am aware that there is a time frame to enroll, and if you don't, maybe you get charged for pre-existing conditions if you're outside that time frame, and maybe you go into the next year's enrollment. So what I would say is if you have a pending Medicare application and it's been greater than 30 days and it was successfully submitted, meaning that you got a confirmation number, which if you did apply online and you didn't get some sort of email or confirmation number, now you know that your application probably wasn't submitted all the way. There have been a number of people that I've heard of that have experienced that, where they thought that they clicked finish and they didn't, and the application didn't go through. And they're just kind of sitting there waiting, thinking that it's pending, and it's not, because they still have to push that button or do whatever on their end to get it triggered to go over to SSA, right? So again, if you filed for Medicare online and it's been greater than 30 days and you have not heard anything, you haven't gotten a phone call, realistically you have not gotten a decision. That's really, even if you did get a phone call, that doesn't mean that a decision was rendered. So you want to make sure that if you don't have that decision letter within 30 days of filing your application, I would say at that point, file a congressional inquiry, especially when it's Medicare. If it's retirement or spouse related or widows related, depending on your financial situation, would determine how quickly you might want to react on that. So if you're in a comfortable position, maybe you give them 45 days, maybe 60 tops. But if you need that money right away, I would give them 30 days. And then if it's an overpayment issue, so let's say that you're receiving maybe a retirement or survivor's benefit or a spouse benefit, and there's work involved and you're overpaid, realistically, your overpayment is going to be dealt with at the local office the majority of the time. If it's disability related, that is going to be with a work review, essentially, is going to be done at the local office. So I would say in either case, if you turn in all of your documents to the Social Security Administration, they have them, they've received them. If you mail them in, make sure you use tracking so that you can keep track of the dates. But give them 30 days. If after 30 days you don't have a response, maybe give the office a call in that case and say, hey, kind of what's going on? Do you have everything you need? Give them another week after that. If after another week, you could call back and ask, if a decision was made, if they tell you no, congressional inquiry. All right. Now, kind of going into the next topic of this is who to contact. So how do you start a congressional inquiry? So here I'm at house.gov, and then you're going to type in your zip code, -29715, and then it's going to propagate the representative that's local to you. This gives you their DC information, but realistically, you're going to want to deal they'll be at the local level office for, this is the House of Representatives. The House of Representatives is something like 430 people as a body. So what that means is your state has so many Congress people that are elected, depending on how many districts there might be, things like that. So there could be a handful of Congress people for your state. So that's why you want to use your zip code. You want to know who is your specific representative. This pops up with their profile, their Washington, D.C. information. But if you click their name right here, and you can see this is probably their website and their email. But if you click this, it's going to take you to their website, right? So you can see this is all their kind of what they got going on. And if you go to contact, and you scroll down, it should see, so right here, here's the Washington, D.C. office, and then here's the Rock Hill office. So this is the more local level to you, depending on where you're at. So the way that, back up, depending on where you're at. The other congressional person that you might reach out to would be your senator, right? So here is the... Let's go here. Let me see, where is it at? So you scroll down to the bottom, contact, right? So you're going to look up your senators, choose your state. Now, what differs between the House of Representatives and the Senate, again, the House of Representatives is going to have a handful of Congress representatives for your state, where the Senate, each state only has 2 senators. Right, so this is kind of like the higher authority in the body of Congress, I guess you could say. And so here's the 2 senators for my state. I live in South Carolina, Lindsey Graham and Tim Scott. So if you click on Lindsey Graham's profile, it's going to take you to his website, and then you go here to contact our office location, so you can kind of see. And then you can see there's many more offices, right? So the two senators, they more than likely split the state in half, depending on maybe like east and west or north and south, whatever it might be. But you can see there's where the congressperson, he only had two offices, D.C. and then the local level, while the senator has kind of the Washington D.C. office, and then you can see all across the state of South Carolina, he's got these various offices, which means that there's staff in each one of these offices that are there to assist the people of South Carolina in this particular case. Right, so going into kind of the next portion of this video is when you start a congressional inquiry, it's important to know what they do and what they do and what they don't do, and kind of how the whole procedure works. There are some people out there that assume that when you contact your federal representative, that there's somebody in their office that is basically going to take over your issue, whatever it might be. And that's not really the case. So here's what they don't do is probably a shorter list, or maybe an easier example. Again, they're not going to take over your case. They don't work for Social Security, so it's where they might have knowledge of the programs just because they deal with so many constituents and are privy to Social Security's procedure. They are not a Social Security employee. They have no access to that mainframe, those systems, and kind of how things get done. So it's not like they're going to show up to your local office and kind of take over your case and they're going to work it, right? For anybody that might have been told that or have assumed that. What they do and how the procedure works. So when you contact your federal representative, they're going to have you sign some sort of release of information documents so that they can contact the local Social Security office on your behalf. They're going to do that via email. So they'll already have the contact information to either the manager, the supervisor, the assistant manager, or all of the above, or to the kind of like the office's email address or directory, I guess you could say. So they're going to send out an email with a copy of kind of, when you sign that release of information, you're going to say, yes, it's okay for this this federal representative to contact my local Social Security office. And then under that, it's going to say, well, why? Why do you need us to contact the Social Security office? So you'll put in there, I have a pending application that has no decision. It's been so long. I have an overpayment issue for XYZ. I have, whatever your issue might be, where you feel that the time frame is just been way past the due date. You're going to put it on that paper, and they're going to reach out to the local office. They're going to provide a copy of the information you gave them and basically the why. At that point, that gets logged into the Congressional Inquiry Log. So each office maintains a log of, this is the date that the congressman reached out, this was the issue, and they're going to assign it to somebody, and they're going to put in that log, it was assigned to person, right? So the person at the local office who initially receives the congressional inquiry, they're going to pick one of the employees in that office, depending on the severity of the issue or what it is. It could get assigned to the rep or that would have normally handled your case, because Social Security does a lot of things by alphabet, is how they kind of break down. So they'll take the whole alphabet and they'll divide it by however many employees they have in that particular department, and then they'll go from there. If it's a more specific or complex issue, it might get assigned to a technical expert to handle. But regardless of who it goes to, essentially the supervisor is going to forward the congressperson's email directly to them, so they'll know exactly what you said when you file that congressional inquiry, and that way they'll know how to approach the issue and kind of what to do. Then the employee is going to engage that issue. They're going to figure out why. So if it's a situation, again, going back to a disability claim and it's with the state, at that point, that employee is going to reach out to the Disability Determination Service in the state, and they're going to try and figure out what's going on. Are you waiting on medical records? Are you waiting on an exam? Are you waiting on, XYZ? Whatever the issue might be, they're going to get a response. If it's something that they can handle, then realistically that should be at the top of their priority list at that point. So that's kind of the other side of it. So if it's, let's say that DDS made the decision, transfer the claim back to Social Security, and it's on the person's kind of pending list to work through for their workloads, and maybe they've just been, dragging their feet on it, now that should be at the top of their priority list to get done within, I would say, the next couple days, right? So if they have all the material that they need to process the decision, no matter what it is, an overpayment, a disability claim, a work issue, once they receive that congressional inquiry, it should be a matter of days for that. If it's for them, it should be days at that point to get it done. And then whatever the outcome is, so whether they had to reach out to a different entity like DDS or it's something that they can handle directly, that some sort of action is going to get taken. They, at that point, should be replying to the email that they got from their supervisor saying, okay, I did XYZ, or DDS told me that they're waiting on this, or, whatever the issue might be. There should be a response within days. And then the supervisor at that point, or the manager, whoever initially got that request from the congressperson's office, they will reply back to the congressman. And then from there, the congressman will forward that response to you, is how it will work. Even if you call, so let's say that because I've seen this as well, so say you file that congressional inquiry, some people still, even after that, will contact the local Social Security office and kind of, poke around and see if they can get an answer. At that point, the Social Security office is going to respond to the congressman. They might respond to you as well, but their priority is responding back to the congressperson. And then that congressperson is almost like your representative at that point, like your Social Security representative, right? So they should be providing you the exact response that they gave their supervisor. And that's kind of how the whole procedure works, what they do, what they don't do. So again, kind of touching base back on the time frames, if you had a disability claim and it's greater than 12 months, I would say contact your congressman. If you have an online claim that's been pending, I would say between 30 and 45 days, they have everything they need to process it, especially if it's Medicare. I would say closer to that 30 days rather than 45. Contact your congressman. If it's an overpayment issue, especially if you're continuing to be overpaid and you know it, 30 days. They do have time frames where kind of like flags start to get thrown up as well at the local office. So there's certain workloads that have time frames, and if they're not completed within a certain amount of time, eyes start to get drawn towards that person. So initially, their supervisor is going to probably send them a thing saying, "Hey, I see that you have this work review that's pending." At 40 days, it should have been done at 30. You need to finish this as soon as possible, right? Then if it exceeds, let's say, 60 or maybe up to 100 days, now there's going to be somebody at the regional or the area's office that is got their eyes on that, and they're going to inform the manager at the local office and say, hey, you have so many cases of work reviews that are over 100 days. Like, this isn't good. You need to get these processed right away. And then, as everybody knows, it all rolls downhill. So then the manager is going to then talk to the supervisor. The supervisor is going to then talk to the employee. Hey, why aren't you doing this? Then if it's, I would say, greater than 120 days, then maybe the regional office, right? So in my area, it would be the regional office would be Atlanta, and then the area office is going to be like basically South Carolina, and then the local office would be like Rock Hill, right? So it's all going to trickle downhill. So the longer that it takes to get something processed, the more eyes are going to be on it, and the more kind of taps on the shoulder to say, hey, you need to hurry up and get this done. And then the reason why the congressional log exists at the local office is so that the area director can see, right? So the boss of the state basically is going to see, okay, well, we even got congressional inquiries on this, and if they don't do anything, then the regional office, which is above them, so in this case, they're out of Atlanta, the regional office might be over, multiple states, so Florida, Georgia, North and South Carolina, that sort of situation, right? Now they're going to be tapping on the area director, who's going to be tapping on the manager, the local office, hey, what's going on? So it starts to add up that pressure is really the sole purpose of filing a congressional inquiry, is to add pressure on that office to, okay, do your job and do it in a timely manner, is really the sole purpose of all that. So if you enjoyed the video, that's pretty much it for today. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to give it a like. If you got something out of it, you learned something, it does help out the algorithm and spread this video out to other people who are looking for the same information. If you have a question about anything that I covered, please leave a comment down below, and consider subscribing to the channel and turning on your bell notifications so that you're always notified whenever I'm posting new content. Again, I really hope you enjoyed the video, and please stay tuned for more. Thank you.